Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of Freedom Friday here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I'm, as always, your host here, the Ohio Patriot. And for today's episode, we are going to be discussing the Ohio governor's race, why there needs to be a new primary, specifically why the two candidates that are in there right now need to both be kicked out of this race completely and banned for life from ever holding elected office in this country. We got neighbor weirdness / an update to what happened with my neighbor guy the other day. We're going to talk about the Karmelo Anthony trial a little bit here and why that kid needs to fucking fry like a piece of crispy bacon at this point, honestly, for what he did to Austin Metcalf and Austin's family. We're also going to talk about why there needs to be 2A basic firearm safety in schools, or at least classes that can be taken, and a few other things here and there is what it is. But anyway, to start out with, so I had gone to the chiropractor earlier today is what it was. And when I was coming back, I noticed that my neighbor guy, Mickey, was leaving at the time. And I was like, okay, this is the guy I remember, from when I moved in. And then I talked to in the past. This was totally not the guy that I talked to like 2 or 3 weeks ago who was making noise at like 2 a.m. is what it was. So I'm almost wondering if it wasn't something where he either had like a relative or a buddy over that had like the same height as he was almost, and that person was pretending to be him, or if there was some other weird shit going on there. But either way, it just seems weird because that was definitely not my neighbor guy that I talked to that night for sure. Because even with the hat and like lower light and stuff like that, like it was definitely not him for sure. Because that dude had more of like a goatee kind of like mustache thing going on there, whereas when I was looking at this guy today, I couldn't tell if he was quite clean shaven or if he just had like a little bit of like peach fuzz right there is what it was basically. But either way, it was definitely not the same dude that I spoke with a couple weeks ago, which I thought was very strange. So, and I don't know why you wouldn't just tell me like, hey, like unless there was like some weird like illegal sublet going on there for a couple weeks or something like that is what it was. Like maybe the real Mick was out with family or something like that, and he just had somebody taking over the apartment for a couple of weeks while he was gone or something. Maybe this dude was like that dude or something like that. What it was, but even still, why wouldn't you just tell me that if that'd be the case as a neighbor dude? Like, why wouldn't you just be like, oh yeah, I'm actually his, brother or cousin or something like that? Is what it is. Like, sorry, I didn't realize that there was a noise thing in place, whatever it was. Like, it just seemed really strange in general because I was seriously concerned for this person. So. And I'm still concerned for the other person if they're not, fucking nuts or whatever the case be. So, but anyway. But yeah, it was just very strange in general. But yeah, I ended up picking up a non-Taurus handgun today because my LGS had the BRG9 Elites that are basically a copy of the Springfield XDs. Actually, they don't have that stupid ass grip zone shit on them, is what it is there. And they're also made in Turkey, not Croatia, like the XDs are. Even though Springfield lies and claims they're made in America, which they're not. They're totally made in Croatia. And then, as these BRG9s, they are made in Turkey, and then they're imported here to Findlay, Ohio, is what it is then. So, I ended up buying one of those today because they were on special for a decent price is what it is. They were actually cheaper than either the Taurus G3C or the Taurus G3C Toro I bought in the last year or so is what it was. By, I think it was a Thomas Jefferson at least. So, and with what came with it, like you can't beat what came with it, dude. It's like, I mean, like you can basically say like the mag capacity is negligible on that one, but like when you have like a nice polymer carrying case, you got a whole cleaning kit with it that has like all kinds of brushes and patches and stuff like that to clean the barrel out and everything. When you're finished doing it, it comes with gun oil in there too, for that matter. I'm trying to think what else it came with then. Oh yeah, a speed loader was another, or not speed loader, a mag loader is what it is. And like you can't beat that for like, like just over the 2 bills mark is what it is there. So I was kind of upset though because they didn't have the. I was going to buy a couple 1-horse lowers again today, and they didn't have those in stock. That was what it was. The only thing they had was the strip stuff, and I'm like, no, I want the full. And they're like, well, we don't know when it's coming in. It might be in this Wednesday, or it might be in like 2 weeks or something. And I'm like, well, fuck me, dude. Like, how about you actually call me and tell me when it's going to be in, and then you can like hold a couple for me is what it is or something. Like, Jesus. Like I don't need you calling around other locations and trying to find a couple of them. I want them, here is what it is. So, but yeah, it's all kinds of craziness though. My aunt had knee surgery today. She was she's had apparently knee issues for a couple years now is what it was, and was trying to get I think it was a knee replacement is what it was they had to do on her. And apparently they're already going to start physical therapy on Monday, and it's like, that seems like a pretty quick turnaround for like basically 2.5 days, give or take, between the time he did the surgery and the time you're having her in physical therapy. So yeah, like that just seems like all kinds of craziness basically. So anyway, moving on to other topics for the day. I'm going to point out a couple different things here, specifically about why Vivek's ass needs to be kicked out of this race completely, as well as Amy Acton for that matter. I was trying to figure out where the thing was with her the other day because she was like there. So basically what happened was this past week, both Acton and Vivek said some real fucking retarded shit that really should have been a disqualifier on the spot from ever holding office in this country. And then you had them basically double down and stuff like that is what it was there. But what's interesting, though, is that in the past week or so here, it has now come out that Ramaswamy is tied into literally everything from top to bottom, bottom to top, of the data centers. Like, he's basically funding the damn things is what it seems like now. So that alone should be kicking his ass out of this race forever is what it is then. And forget a political race for that matter. Then you had him come out a couple days ago making this kind of fucking retard statement here, which we posted on our X page the other day, which is Vivek Ramaswamy tries to erase the identity of Americans, women, and white people. He has never once claimed our party because in his caste system of Burman, I think that's how I pronounce it, Barharm, I'm not even sure, it's some Indian fucking word. They align with communists and socialists. That's exactly what he is. Quote, it's not about Republican or Democrat. He makes rhinos look good. He grifted his way into this political scene with all kinds of BS. As this person said, they said, I'm baffled that anyone would listen to him, support him. He has zero loyalty to anyone. He believes he is above kings and gods. He hates us all. He will be happy to take your freedom away, freedom again, and surveil you. And that's the thing. Like, you got to think about it too from that matter. You have the two people that are in this race, because obviously there's that Don Kissimmett, I think is what his name is, his libertarian candidate. That guy's just as bad as these other two jackasses, though. Because between Vivek, Acton, and this Don guy, they all support abortion. They all fucking basically hate white people at this point. They are all fucking criminals, more or less, except for Don, because I don't have enough information about that guy to say anything besides that, except for the fact that he has been like you would think too, as libertarian candidate, he'd be like pro 2A, but now he's anti 2A as far as I'm aware. Meanwhile, you got Acton, who's actively jerking off Moms Man Action, and you had Vivek at his fucking house like 1.5 years ago meet with these fucking cunts behind closed doors is what it is. So again, like that stuff alone, every single one of these candidates should be kicked out of the fucking race is what it is, bro. And we should be holding a brand new primary here in Ohio just based on that stuff alone. But then you also had, going back to Vivek for a minute here, you had this stuff come out recently, which was last June, just over a year ago now. You had, where's that here now? Yeah, you had Vivek's opening remarks at the second annual Global Somali Awards in June 2025. where he encourages mass migration from all countries to the U.S., stating that everyone can be American. In February 2026, it was endorsed by the Somali American Chamber of Commerce in Columbus, Ohio, which, by the way, I want to point something out, that literally 1/3 of all Medicaid fraud is coming from Columbus, Ohio, specifically from the districts where the Somalians were dropped in at under Kashi's administration by the piece of shit Obama is what it is. Because exactly what Vivek wants to be, Obama 2.0 is what it is there. As the constitutionalist chick continuing on here, she said, they have just begun to uncover Somali fraud in Ohio and already totals $1.2 billion. 72% of Somalians are receiving welfare. If this is who you want governing Ohio, you should lose your American card. Exactly, dude. So, which, that's what we're going to talk about here in a sec, is what it is, because we got this one, because apparently Dr. Oswald, people, is now the one coming here to Ohio and doing the fraud stuff with Vance and everybody. That's what it is there. So, you had... where's that here now? A couple days ago, maybe it was yesterday actually, you had Dr. Oz come out and say on the healthcare fraud he's seen in Ohio, quote, unfortunately, this area around Columbus is responsible for 1/3 of all of the $1.5 billion spent on home healthcare in Ohio. That's 3 times what you would expect. It defies belief. Some of these buildings are vacant. And I want to point out that 2 people, the 2 Somali terrorists that are in our state house right now, here in Ohio, that should have been kicked out for life years and years ago, it's their fucking districts here at a state level that this shit exists in, dude. It is... fuck isn't my thing here? Sorry, I'm trying to pull different tabs out. It is the districts that Marina Abduli and what's that other guy's name? Ismail Mohammed. I think I'm spelling that right. Yeah, this fucker right here. And this was the cocksucker, by the way, who came out like a year or 2 ago and was like, oh, I totally support Somalia before America. Then get the fuck out of America, cocksucker. Seriously. You fucking piece of shit cunt. By the way, there's at least 6 or 7 LLCs tied to this guy here in the state of Ohio that are all tied to daycare fraud and Medicaid fraud. And I guarantee you that's exactly why these people are doing this shit, because they can get away with this, what it is, bro. When in reality, they should be getting a big old boot in the fucking ass right back to Somalia is what it is there. And when you do banning Islam for life and never holding office in this country ever again is what it is then. Because of that shit. Which, we're going to talk about that for a second right now. Speaking of Islam infesting our society. Oh, wait. No, it's a different story. Apparently not grab that right link is what it was there. Let's see if I can grab it now. Yeah, here we go. This was about an hour ago from a little bit of TikTok, where you had Rochester Public Schools in Minnesota to recognize the Islamic holiday of Eid al-Adha as a school holiday starting in the 2027-2028 school year. This will cancel all classes for students and staff. Like, what a bunch of shit, dude. What a bunch of bullshit. Like, this is how it fucking starts, people. This is how it started in the UK, by the way, where they started recognizing bullshit from Islam, and now, fucking 8-10 years later, they're so infested with Islamic terrorism in that country that it's pretty much to the point right now we need to either have Europe de-nuke, or they're going to have Islamic terrorists having their hands on nuclear weaponry in the next 5 years or so. Maybe even less than that. Maybe by like 2030 or so is what it is then. So, yeah, it's a bunch of shit. Speaking of a bunch of shit, in the meantime, you had Washington State Governor Bob Ferguson, this cocksucker right here, who, by the way, was AG of Washington State and behind pretty much every anti-gun law that went in place there in Washington State, raises the LGBTQ pride flag and pledges allegiance to the LGBTQ community. How the fuck is this not high treason, by the way? Like, I'm dead serious on that one. How is that not literally trying to destroy the sovereignty of your nation at that point, dude? Because you even look up the definition for high treason. We're going to go ahead and put on the screen here momentarily as soon as I can figure out where my tabs are at. Yeah, high treason, the most serious crime of a person can commit against their own state or sovereign, which would be the nation, obviously, generally refers to disloyalty or acts that actively endanger a country, such as levying war against the nation, attempting to violently overthrow the government, or assisting as wartime enemies. Which again, that last one could actually cover that pretty well as well, because you have these people who are trying to go to war with us as a country. You have so many attacks by a bunch of trans people is what it is now, and school shootings and stuff like that is what it is, and just randomly, just random terror attacks like that's what it is there. Like, I think it's like 9 or 10 out of the last 10 were pretty much trans people is what it is there. Well, I guess technically if you count the California one most recently, I think that was the outliers what it was then, which even that is a fucking psyop for sure, 100%. So, but yeah, it's just complete disloyalty is what it is, dude. And it's also a slap in the face to the U.S. flag at that point, because you're trying to put some fucking pole smoker flag over the U.S. flag is what it is then, bro. So, like, if that shouldn't be automatic boot out of office, I don't know what should at this point, honestly, dude. Except for maybe he's trying to steal a gun, which Ferguson has also done in the past. So, again, that fucker should have been out of power probably a decade ago, just based on deprivation rights and kind of law charges what it is there. So, but anyway. Let's see, where are we at now? Oh, yeah. So turning to the Karmelo Anthony trial for the murder of Austin Metcalf, which he did commit and basically admitted to later on. You had, in the past 2 days now, during this trial, a bunch of black supremacists come out of the woodwork as it was there, including this motherfucker right here, who was quoted as saying, "Only good cracker is a dead cracker." In his anti-no-play, he said black nationalists gather outside Karmelo Anthony murder trial in Collin County, Texas, accused of murdering white teen Austin Metcalf with a knife. Provocateur Jake Long also showed up. Video is from Savannah Hernandez. And yeah, you basically have him saying this to the cops. The fact that these cops weren't actively just beating the shit out of this dude after the fact, dude. Like, if I was this cop right here with the cowboy hat and the sunglasses on, I would have been grabbing them cuffs out and using those fucking brass knucks against that dude, man. For real. Like, it would have been police brutality on camera. I wouldn't even give a fuck at that point. Because fuck these motherfucking black supremacist types, dude. Like, they are the problem in our society. These are the people that funded that piece of shit Karmelo and his piece of shit family for over $600,000, dude. And they done blew on fucking cars and mansions and other dumb shit. So, anyway. So you got that one. Then you had, I'm trying to remember which one of these is which now. Oh, yeah. You had this retard shit from yesterday as well for day 2 of the trial, which was, quote, "We love our black youth. They deserve protection too." Karmelo Anthony supporters currently chanting outside Collin County Courthouse about how black youth deserve to be protected. They lashed out at another local reporter today and are aggressive with any media who attempt to interview them. Because they're all black supremacists, is what it is. Like, this kind of shit right here, what it reminds me of, honestly, is it reminds me of during the BLM riots of 2020, you had I forget which state it was. I want to say one of the Carolinas, like North Carolina, maybe, or maybe it was someplace else. Actually, I'm trying to remember which state it was. I don't think it was Minnesota, where the lady cop was screaming "taser, taser, taser" and then shot the guy. I don't think maybe that was Minnesota actually, but I think it might have been over that shooting actually, but it was in a different state that they took place at then, where you literally had like some chapter of BLM literally chanting, "Who do we protect?" and then the rest of the slogan was "Black criminals," and it's like they're just admitting the truth at this point, dude. And this is the problem when you have tribalism in any nation of any race for that matter, because instead of actually, being like, no, this kid's a fucking murderer, he's a piece of shit, like maybe don't hold pieces of shit in your society, people, and you can actually be better off. Like, this is the kind of crap that creates black fatigue, honestly, dude. Just like where's that here? Yeah, just like this fucking retarded cunt right here, claiming he was not an aggressor. Karmelo was not an aggressor. He was minding his own damn business. When them boys came up to him, the fuck he was, dude. He was illegally under a tent he had no business being under for that school because he didn't go to that fucking school. Number two, why the fuck did he have a knife on school grounds illegally concealed in a backpack, lady? That's what you need to be asking yourself right now. Dude literally had a concealed weapon, said, "Come at me," or "try it again," or something like that. That's what it was to Austin Metcalf when Austin was trying to tell him to fuck off, basically, and then proceeded to pull the knife out and stab him to the fucking heart is what it was. Which my understanding is, I guess now there's actual footage coming out from that, which my assumption was it was probably from the court hearing is my guess. And this is probably the stuff they've been keeping under wraps for the past year or so when the school there collected, like, I think it was like 500 cell phones or something like that from people. Because at least half of them had the footage on is what it was there. But yeah, every single thing from that video points to Karmelo was the aggressor, 100%. This is not self-defense at all. Never could be. And then you had him murder Austin Metcalf in cold blood. Literally is what it is. And the fact this fucker is already frying, the fact this jury trial has gone on for at least 3 days now is fucking ridiculous, dude. It should have been open shut case. 5 minutes. Dude's guilty. Straight to execution. And in a just society. Oh, yep. There's the video from InfoWars. Yep. BLM protesters chant, "Who do we protect? Black criminals." Yep. That's what it is, dude. That's what it is for these fucking morons, is what it is. Because they're a bunch of idiots, that's what it is, bro. Like, they are literally... And I swear to God, it has to do with IQ at this point. Because it's like the lowest IQ of all of them are the people that will scream the loudest about this shit. Like, you have this one from going back to the black tribalism thing I was talking about a minute ago there. You had this one from 4 hours ago from Selena Hernandez, where she was talking to this black woman. So I asked Karmelo supporter if the black community would accept the evidence if it shows that Karmelo was not acting in self-defense. She said that no matter what, quote, we gone stands. God damn, the fucking ghetto, dude. It should be, we gonna stand with ours regardless, and question Metcalf's role in the stabbing. So basically what she's saying is, oh, it doesn't matter if this kid actually is a criminal and was, in fact, the murderer that he is. We're still going to stand by him is what it is there. That's what they're saying at the end of the day. Like, it's so fucking ridiculous, dude, is what it is. And again, this is exactly why people have black fatigue right now is what it is. Because of shit like that. Because you're like, oh, we get this kid's a piece of shit lowlife, but we're still going to stand by him, which makes you yourself a piece of shit lowlife by fucking association, is what it is. So, yeah, I'm just fucking so sick of it, dude, is what it is. I think everybody else is too, for that matter. And then, of course, you got people bitching and moaning because, oh, there was no black jurors on the fucking case. It's like, yeah, because they actually wanted a guilty verdict, is what it is, people. Because they know that when you look at all of these fucking trials, Hell, you can go back to the Ethan Lyman case here in Ohio as a great example of that one. You had, I think it was like 3 or 4 black jurors there in Akron for that murder case. And what did they try these assholes with instead? They just did like aggravated assault or something. That's what it was there, instead of actual murder, which they killed this fucking guy, dude. They literally stomped him to death. These fucking Stafford brothers, Deshaun and Tyler. They literally stomped Ethan to death. And yet we're not tried for first-degree murder is what it was. And since then, both of them have gone on to commit more crimes, including another murder each. They've killed 2 more people after Ethan Lyman, dude. And are now facing those charges. Like, goddamn, bro. Like, at what point is enough enough? Like, at what point do we bring back mandatory death penalties, 3 strikes law style, and even in some cases, 1 strike laws? Like, if you're going to molest a bunch of kids, you're going to molest a kid or whatever it is, dude. It doesn't matter if it's a bunch of kids or 1 kid. Like, you die. Like, that's it. That's it for you, bro. That's it for you, lady. Same thing with other things like that. You murder somebody, you die. Like, it's that simple. You know? Like, enough is enough of this fucking stupid bullshit where we got people like, what is that woman? Bianca Ellis up there in Cleveland who killed Julian Wood in cold blood, literally stabbed a 3-year-old child in the face, murdering him. And then she got fucking insanity defense and was not even put to trial until more recently. And even then, I think she got like less than life imprisonment is what it is or something. It's like 25 to life or something like that what it was. So ridiculous is what it is. And then you had one even more recent than that. I forget which state it was in. But it was this other black dude who they're now claiming he was insane. Or that's what it was. I think it was in the East Coast there. Or not East Coast, West Coast there. So it was either Oregon or Washington State. I forget which one it was in. But it was basically, he had killed somebody like 3 years ago is what it was. They finally went to try to go to trial with us, what it was this past week or so. And now they're claiming the guy's insane. And instead of actually locking his ass up for life, / executing him is what it should be at this point, honestly, because he's fucking completely psychotic. They're like, oh no, he's too insane to go to prison. He has to go to a psych ward instead. It's like, what the fuck? Like, no. He needs to be in the ground for killing this person they killed in 2023, bro. Like, this is the problem with a pussified society is what it is. We don't kill killers is what it is, bro. We don't kill child rapists the way we need to. So, honestly, if we're going to talk about real shit right now, this piece of crap agitator guy right here is what it is that was talking about only good cracker is a dead cracker right in front of a bunch of cops. In a justified society, he would have been beaten to death right then and there is what it is by that group of cops. So, it's like you want to sit there and talk shit about whites, talk about killing whites, bro. Well, I guess it's time for you to die then, bro. Because go fuck yourself, you black supremacist. So, anyway, let's see what else is going on here. Karmelo was. I mean, I don't know how to go that far, but like, for real though, like we need to have that 2% rule thing enacted is what it is there. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll talk about it right now for a minute here. This was something that I believe was Asmund Gold was discussing like a year or so ago. I'm not sure if he was the one that thought it up or I think it was maybe somebody else and he heard it from them as what it was or something. But basically, there is a theorem going around that I think it's like 98% of all crime, because it's that people have done it through the statistics and stuff like that of like repeat offenders and everything like that. And it's basically how like I think it's either 96 or 98% of crime in this country is done by like 2% of the population. And so if you legitimately arrested like 2% of the population out of society and put them in prison or execute them, whatever the case be there, you know, we would have like a 96 to 98% crime drop is what it is then. And especially for repeat offenders is what it is then as well. And this is the issue right now, because when you start to look at like how many people we actually have to arrest, we'd have to basically build like a shitload more jails at that point, dude. Or it would be like, it would almost have to be like a cattle thing where it's like sending them straight to slaughter kind of thing is what it is there, where they don't realize they're being herded into like, the death chamber essentially. So anyways, where is that at now though? Yeah, so anyway, going on to just check out X for a few minutes. Here's what it is. So we got this from 2 hours ago. Karmelo Anthony defense is completely falling apart in the murder trial of Austin Metcalf. Witnesses are coming up and confirming Anthony was asked 15 times to leave the tent. Witnesses said Karmelo provoked Metcalf, and after Karmelo was pushed, he pulled out a knife and committed the crime, basically killing Austin. Then ran away like a little bitch. And this is my biggest gripe with the Texas cops that day, dude. Like, he stabs the dude in the heart and then runs for it. Shoot his ass in the back of the head. Like, that's what the cops should have done, honestly, dude. They should have shot him in the back or shot him in the back of the head and fucking dealt with the problem right then and there. We wouldn't have to deal with this shit over a year later is what it is then. We wouldn't have to be wasting taxpayer money to do this stupid fucking trial. We wouldn't have to be wasting money to potentially lock this cocksucker up for decades of his life now. Because I'm almost guaranteeing they're not going to give him the death penalty is what it is there. And even if they give him the death penalty, then he's going to sit there for like 20, 30 years exhausting fucking appeals is what it is then. And again, like, this is where I'm actually to a point right now of we kind of need a judge dread system in place is what it is. Where it's like kind of like a judge, kind of like judges, where it'd be like judge, jury, executioner kind of thing is what it is there. The problem with that though is that then it becomes a whole thing of totalitarianism and everything else like that. And it's like, do you really want to live under that kind of authoritarian kind of rule? Because I really don't is what it is. So it's like a really fine line is what it is, what we need to have happen in this country. But I think truthfully where it actually starts is we enact a 1994 style crime bill again is what it is there. Like, you don't lock people up for weed for decades is what it is. But if you're going to be sitting there, dealing like crazy amounts of meth or heroin or fentanyl or whatever it is, that'd be the case, then yes, you go to jail, and then eventually you're probably going to get executed for, trying to kill a bunch of people is what it is there with the drugs you're pushing is what it is then. And the same thing with murderers, the same thing with rapists, the same thing with pedophiles, etc. Like, there's, various degrees of imprisonment / execution would be then. And we would actually have a good society again. And I think this is exactly why you have so many people now looking back at the late 80s into early 90s, there is what it is, and being like, man, that was a great time of history. And it's like, yeah, because it was a safe time in this country. You know what else it was? It was a time period where we had a mostly white nation, where it was like still like, I think it was like 75% of America was still white at that point or something is what it was. You didn't have all these fucking third world trash coming in from India and Somalia and other Islamic nations, etc. there. You didn't have fucking forced migration. You didn't have economic migration. You didn't have various fucking H-1Bs out the ass is what it is there, because it barely existed back in those days, if at all. I think it wasn't until like mid-90s that H-1Bs actually became a thing is what it is. Or everything before that was other kinds of visa programs what it was. But yeah, the entire point is, though, you had a better nation because you had a more homogenous nation. You had an actual coexistence of a nation is what it is. So, and that's the problem right now. You don't have that homogeny anymore. You don't have that shared experience is what it is anymore. And that's what a lot of people are understanding now is what it is. You used to have, I saw a good one the other day, and it was kind of something that Honda's been bringing up over the past couple of years now as well, where it's basically the shared experience / water cooler talk is what it is there. Back in the day, back in the 90s, back 2000s, et cetera there, you would have, people watching TV or whatever it is there, and they would, be watching the same show, whether it be The Simpsons, whether it be, back in the 90s, it could have been like Hanging with Mr. Cooper or Full House or Family Matters or Boy Meets World or whatever it is there with the vacation, TGIF and stuff like that. And then come Monday morning, you'd be at the water cooler or whatever and be talking to people about those shows and be like, oh, yeah, I saw that episode. That was a good episode, whatever the case be. Now you don't have that because nobody watches the same shit anymore because you have so many different streaming platforms. You have so many different TV networks now. You have so much different stuff that people, and hell, like even memes and stuff like that, people think is funny or something like that from like a movie or something. They're going to say that to somebody or whatever, and nobody's going to get the reference is what it is there. And again, it goes not only by, a shared, racial background, if you will. It also goes back to just an actual set of people that want to actually melt is what it is. That's a big thing. Like the whole melting pot theory, which I want to point out, that whole fucking theory is a complete and total lie. It has been forever, dude. My understanding is it was basically created by the CIA back in the day during JFK's administration, because this is back when you had, by the way, I want to also point this out too for that matter. If you actually look at the Statue of Liberty, what is written on the book on the Statue of Liberty there is what it is, was never actually there when France gave us that Statue of Liberty as a gift is what it is back in the day. You had that added on later on. I believe all this happened during JFK's administration is what it was, right before it is what it was, maybe if that be the case. But basically that's where the whole tired, hungry, poor, huddled masses thing came from when the book is what it was there. That was an afterthought that was written on there decades after the fact. And then at the same time, you had the CIA back during the 60s basically come out and do the whole melting pot theory thing is what it is, where it's like, oh yeah, you can have all these different cultural differences, but as long as you jump in the pot and melt together is what it is, you're all fine and everything like that. It's like, so that's not the case, dude. Like, you look at all these high trust society countries across the board right now, whether it be China full of Chinese people, whether it be Japan full of Japanese people, whether it be some other country full of a single race is what it is there. They only work because of that thing, dude. When you start having people come in from low IQ shitholes whose entire existence is only there because they defraud their own country, or their whole thing is about fraud and stuff like that, and defrauding people, and you invite them into a first world nation, what are they going to do? They're going to take your first world nation and turn it basically into the third world shithole they came from, or at least a second world nation anyway, for that matter, which is what we're basically experiencing right now in some cases. And God forbid any of these data centers become even bigger and bigger is what it is, dude. You're going to have all the water sucked up. You're going to have all the electricity sucked up from these places. I mean, hell, you already got, it's the California side of Lake Tahoe now in the past week or so. They've talked about these people that live there, which is like, I think almost 1 million people or something live on that side of it there. And they're basically, you have these power companies telling them, oh, these data centers are going in now. Yeah, they're going to eat up all the power from now on. You're going to have till sometime next spring to figure out where the fuck your electricity is coming from, because it's not coming from us anymore. Like, I swear to God, bro, like, if I could write how Skynet takes over, it would be the exact time I want right now is what it is. Because I truly believe that the AI that's being pushed forward right now and the data centers that are being created to basically house it would be essentially there. It's what's becoming Skynet. And I would not be the least bit surprised if a bunch of politicians that are in power right now were actually some variation of Terminator. And I mean that seriously. Like, I'm not talking about like the Schwarzenegger kind of Terminator where they're just going to like come up to you and like break your neck essentially with their like bare hands or whatever it is there, or I guess be bare metal fist full of humanoid. I think what the fuck the thing was there. It was like humanoid kind of skin is what it was over there. Metal exoskeleton is what it was. I need to go back and watch those movies again because I forget exactly how Schwarzenegger explains it, and I think it's the second one if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it's the third one even. But basically, the entire point is, though, what better way to have yourself be created in the future than to basically send various people, or I'm sorry, send various machines back through time into the past that look like people from the current is what it is there. And especially high-profile politicians and stuff like that, dude. And I'm not trying to say Trump is a Terminator or something like that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by this point, honestly, if it was the case. But yeah, I definitely think there's people in there that are definitely doing some stuff that are not completely human anymore, is what it would be. Whether it be they're demonically possessed, whether it be that they are, in fact, some robot hybrid or something like that, maybe. And I'm actually thinking more when you go to the Terminator series and stuff like that, throughout all the movies and things like that. I believe it is the one where Christian Bale is John Connor that is set in the future there. Because it is, I'm trying to remember the guy's name is offhand. I think it was Sam Worthington played the character, but he thought he was human or whatever, but it turned out he was like half human, half robot or whatever kind of thing like that or whatever. He's like organic matter kind of thing or something. I could actually see it being something like that, even for that matter, where they're creating some kind of hybrid like that or something in the future or something, like the AI has become self-aware, becomes Skynet, et cetera there, created that kind of humanoid kind of thing or whatever it is there, and then sent that back to take over in the place of some of these people, or even send it back far enough to where they just became that person over time as a little bit or something then. And it would actually make a lot more sense when you start looking at stuff like that as what it is then, because it would explain a lot of the transhumanism shit we're seeing right now is what it is then. So anyway, but yeah, there's definitely some weirdness going on for sure. There's what it is. And shit, I lost train of thought now what it is. Yeah, it would basically, like going back to what I was saying, that would basically explain a lot of what we're seeing right now is what it is. And so would demonology for that matter as well. So, and like demonic possession of people and stuff. But anyway, the reason I was chuckling a little bit here. Because you had, obviously it was talking about Metcalf being the victim here, Karmelo being the aggressor and everything like that. And then it was this thing 3 hours ago where it said, judge told media not to identify current witness because he's a minor. This is what I was actually laughing at right here, where it was 2015 black woman, you're a racist, white guy. Wait, what? 2025 black woman, you're a racist, white guy. Fuck off. That's what it needs to be anymore, for real. Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree with this meme right now. Is what it is, dude. And by the way, if we were actually to build a gallows kind of thing like that, dude, it wouldn't be just a single thing like that. It would be a pretty long one on both sides. You would have this one right here, this like pillar piece, and then the rope and stuff. And you'd have the same thing going down the line about 4 or 5 different times what it is there. So you could do like 4 to 5 people at once is what it would be then. And you'd have drop floors underneath each one of them is what it would be. So just want to point out that's sort of that meme right there that people were talking about. That's exactly how our founding fathers deal with people as well as back in the day, bro. So I don't know. I like a little bit of scald on my chicken. So I just saw that one. I had to bring it up. The overcooked chicken. I'm not sure what kind of chicken I like best, actually. If it would be kind of, I honestly think it would be broasted, if I'm being honest, which is kind of like fried, but not quite, because it's more of a like pressure cooker kind of roaster device thing is what it is there. That's what we used to have all the time here, and used to have an IGA in my hometown. They did broasted chicken and JoJo's. Some people call them potato wedges. We call them JoJo's here in small towns, especially in the state of Ohio and other. I'm not even sure it would be the breadbasket of America, maybe. I'm not sure exactly offhand. But yeah, in states like this is what we call these things, in small towns and things like that. obviously in major cities like Columbus, they've never heard of a JoJo. They're always like, "What the fuck you talking about, bro?" It's like, y'all got potato wedges, right? Yeah, those are JoJos, bro. They're not quite the same thing actually, because technically, when you look at them, most potato wedges are maybe about yay big, whereas JoJos can be like that thick. Essentially, what it is they take a potato and they have some kind of slicer and they just like slice into like 6 or 8 pieces. Usually, is what it is there. I think sometimes it might be 4 even, because I've seen some huge ones before. Where I think what they do is they might just take a knife and just like cut it in 4s or something like that's what it is. But I think some people have like a slicer thing that they'll do them like really thin is what it is. But yeah, it basically comes out to be like probably about yay long, give or take, depending on the size of the potato, obviously. And that's what a JoJo is basically. It also has a better texture to it too, because I'm not sure what they coat it in. I think it might be similar to the batter they put on chicken, what it is or something. Because when they throw it in the fryers, then it has that, like, a lot of times it'll have like crispiness on it and stuff like that, and it tastes so fucking good, dude. Man, now I want some JoJo's again. I should have taken a picture of the ones I got. When I go down to my aunt's again here in a couple of weeks, which I think is going to be sometime next weekend probably, so it'll be about 9-10 days from now. I'll have to get some from the store again. I'll actually just take a picture of them and show you guys what I'm talking about, because there's definitely a difference between what are JoJo's and what are potato wedges, basically. And especially when you go to like a Walmart or something like that, like their wedges are just not good at all. Like they're almost a JoJo, but not quite, and it's because they don't have the better coating is what it is there. So I don't know how I got off on this topic. I think maybe it's because I'm hungry. It's almost 6:30, honestly. We're going on 6:30 now. So, but anyway, let's go down the comment section here for that post there. As this person said, they won't be happy, and they're talking about the girl who was talking to Savannah about, oh, we're still going to be protecting your own blacks a little bit there, whatever. Let's see, then you got this one saying, what a weak-ass judge. Doesn't matter what the people or news say, do your job. These judges need to go. They are useless, like Democrat ideology. Let's see, what's this one now? Shit doesn't work anymore. People are awake, no matter what color you are. If there's evidence you murdered someone or committed a crime, then you do the time. Cry harder so the world can see what kind of people you are. To all failing parents and single hood rats. Yeah. So this was the guy who created the Boondocks cartoon series in 2003, talking about predicting black fatigue then. So, interesting. That was a good show, by the way. That Pastor Manning guy absolutely reminds me of Uncle Ruckus from that show. And I gotta say, man, that Manning dude, if you've never heard his Anism rant, dude, like, it is the funniest thing you will ever hear, because it is so fucking spot on. So, anyway, let's continue on down the comments here on this for a minute or so. Then I'm going to jump to something else real quick and go from there. So you had this Gracie woman say, I was mind-boggled to hear defense attorneys put up the argument that a 5-inch knife was legal to have in Texas. Really, because I lived in Texas for well over a dozen years, and nowhere was it legal to carry a weapon on school property. Though I will say it was interesting to hear prosecutors use the bench/brawl culture argument. I'm sure that Bandito's MC attorneys will want to grab that for future use. So they're talking about 1% motorcycle clubs in that case. I'm pretty sure size of blades is actually legal in most states. Actually, I know here we can carry big ass knives. Actually, here in Ohio, Actually, I want to point something out too, because I do want to talk about the Henry Novak case while we're at it for a minute here. Or not Novak, Nowak. I think that's how I pronounce the guy's name. He was the teen that was murdered over in the UK by that piece of shit Sikh guy who pulled out. It was like a 9-inch ceremonial dagger thing that was razor sharp. So I just want to make a reference on that one because we're going to talk about this blade right here tomorrow that I got in. This is the new DC-53 knife I got in recently. The knife that Henry kid was killed with was 9 inches long. This is only 8 inches. So that's what that Sikh guy was basically stabbing into Nowak that day. So, not quite. It was like, because that was more like a dagger point on it or whatever. But yeah, this thing's nice though. It's got a little bit of jimping right there on the handle. Got basically some claw cuts for shaving down various trees. I'm not so sure I want to be holding it like that to shave them off or whatever, but yeah, very, very nice. DC-53 steel on there. At the time I bought this the other day, I think it was about 26 or 27 bucks. Now it's like, it's either 45 or 50, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because they must have sold out the last batch or something. I think these are glow-in-the-dark handles, and I'm not sure on that, but I'm definitely going to put some paracord in between those two holes, what it is then, and have a handle on that then. What's nice about this is it also comes with the fire starter too. So, very nice blade in general. This might be something I'd actually carry, depending. And this would be legal to carry in Ohio, by the way, just not on school grounds is what it is there. So, and I think it's kind of the same with Texas, if I'm not mistaken, other states like that. There are red states where you actually can legally carry like larger blades and stuff. You just can't carry them on like, you know, certain places like a school or a church or something like that, where it would be. It could be like those same places that don't allow you to carry guns and stuff that are also, you know, gun-free zones and just targets for future crimes, what it is there. So, anyway. Where the fuck was I at now? Sorry, I need to knock down some of these tabs so I can get to what we're actually talking about today. Okay, let's see. Here we are. While we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my my celebratory midstream hat change over to the old Magpul. I will say this $5, I think this is like $5. I got this from Walmart, this Realtree cap. This is probably the most comfortable hat I've ever worn, actually, or damn close to it. It's definitely like top 2 for sure. Like it just fits my head like a glove, essentially. So, whereas the Magpul has like a little bit of like what you call it on the sides, whereas the other one just fits perfectly as what it is there. Like shaped perfectly to my big old dome. So, anyway, where we're at now. Yeah, you had Snarky Mushroom here say, they may not get a conviction on capital murder unless they can prove the robbery allegations as well. Might be best to offer a plea deal on standard murder, non-capital, maybe even manslaughter. Fuck that, dude. If his defense is going this bad, he may take the deal and save his own life in the end. Why would you offer a piece of shit who should be tried with first-degree premeditated murder a fucking plea deal, dude? That's retarded as fuck is what it is. That's fucking stupid-ass logic right there, is what that is, bro. Because that's the thing. Like, you look at what happened that day. If you look at intent, man, why would anybody have a big-ass blade concealed in a backpack unless they planned on using it? That right there is premeditation. And the fact this is not premeditated first-degree murder is absolute bullshit, dude. So, yeah, it definitely needs to be capital murder for sure. That's what it is. Let's see. This person here said, being on the defense team of a guilty person should be really tough. How do they do it? Well, they're pieces of shit is what it is, obviously. Let's see. This guy here said, boy's parents and the black community have failed him completely. undisciplined, like so many in his community, full of hatred, and it's going to cost him the rest of his life behind bars. They take no responsibility for it whatsoever. They tell they have to lie about what happened. This other guy, also named Mike, said, "We already know they provoke almost every situation, low impulse control. That's what happens when an entire generation are raised by women because their fathers failed to be present." It's not just that, dude. AK Nation News has talked about this the best, I think, and it's basically how you have the IQ level is what it is there. When you look at the average IQ of specifically the black race, in most, well, it depends obviously on areas too, for that matter, like Africa and stuff like that, or Somalia or whatever it is there, it's always lower than that even. But like average IQ in America here is pretty much retard levels or damn close to it. And then when you go internationally to Africa or Somalia or someplace like that, where it's a lot of like black folks too, it is below retard levels is what it is, dude. It's like 70 or lower in most cases. So, and that's what it is, dude. It's and the whole low impulse control thing leads directly back to low IQ is what it is there. Because instead of being able to emotionally control your fucking problem and be like, "Oh, he called me a word," then you just say "fuck you" back and leave. You know, it's not that hard, bro. You know, somebody's gonna drop an N-bomb on you, then you just be like, "Okay, well then fuck you, cracker," you know, and then just walk away. You know, like that's all it has to do, man. You just walk away from the situation, what it is there, or just be like, "Well, fuck you then too," and just give them the finger as you're walking away. Is what it is then. You know, you just walk away from the situation. You don't sit there and be a fucking retard and be like, "Oh, you scuffed my shoe. Now I'm gonna shoot you in the face." Like it's fucking nonsense behavior is what it is, bro. It's nonsense behavior from low IQ individuals is what it is there. So anyway, we're going to read 2 more comments from this and then jump back to the actual feed. So you had this Bravo person an hour ago say, "Blacks won't dare ride in the streets when this pathetic waste of oxygen is buried in a prison cell. The white rage will be intense. Some people may not be so kind as to their reckless behavior they so often display." No, I think there will be riots in this case, honestly, dude, just because you will have, well, not probably not the size of the riots you want, but I'm sure they'll be snuffed out pretty quick is what it is then, too, for that matter. Then you have this Dane guy say, "It helps your self-defense argument if you were in a place you were entitled to be, not somewhere you had no business being but felt entitled to. Karmelo should fry, but his general now incarcerate, I'm not sure how to pronounce that word, honestly. It's basically culture by Democrats tricking him into doing the murder." They didn't trick him into shit, bro. The guy, as far as I'm aware, the guy had priors and stuff. He was a violent offender to begin with. He was, not to mention the fact that, as far as I'm aware, before this whole thing happened, Karmelo Anthony had already been expelled from at least 1 high school, if not 2 for that matter. And he had no reason of being at the track meet anyway because he was banned from fucking school events is what it is because of his violent behavior is what it is. So again, that alone is why the cops should have smoked his ass that day. So anyway. Let's see what else we got here now. Oh, that's another one that's happening now. You have the anti-ICE riots there in New Jersey, I believe it is Delaney Hall, the past week or so, where cops have not shut that shit down. We won't even go in there now, but you had this happen the other day. So outside Delaney Hall, Ben Leo, chief U.S. correspondent for GB News, thought he could have civil conversations with the far left. Ben, these people aren't rational, as you quickly found out. They are hateful, violent, anarchists, and terrorists with extremely low impulse control. Yeah, this black dude was basically trying to fight him and be like, "You shouldn't even be here, bro." And then this dude in the glasses that people are saying is Jewish, but I can't confirm that either way. Basically, they're saying that this dude, the white guy, was the black guy's handler, essentially, is what people are saying, which I wouldn't be surprised if it was the case, honestly, dude. Where it's like you got agitator number one being the black dude here, and then you got this fucking guy being like the mastermind behind it all is what it is or something. Which is pretty much what, when you look at all the, and the reason I say it, obviously, and I'm going to go from that perspective of things, of when you look at how we have situations and stuff like that happen in this country, when you look at all the Antifa terrorism and stuff in the past, like 10 to 15 years, give or take, now is what it is. All the stuff they've ever done, when you look at who is behind a lot of it, it is these old ass commies from the 1960s and 1970s that were like the young kids back then that were doing it themselves, who are now like the top heads of these things. And you'll see them at these various riots, these various, you know, marches, etc., that they become a riot at that point, obviously, in history, where they're like 65, 75 years old, whatever it is there, and they're just like hanging out over in the corner there. And then you'll have like one of these Antifa people walk up to them and say something, and then they'll go off and get like their marching orders, is what it is, basically. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about handler stuff, is what it is there. Because it could be something very similar with that black dude and that white dude, where it was, you know, white dude tells black dude, "Oh, go over there and harass this guy," or whatever, and then he does, and then the white guy jumps in and continues the harassment, is what it is then. So, anyway, nothing would surprise me at this point, honestly. So, anyway, continuing on down the feed here, we got, what is this one? Florida lawmaker attacks Republicans during St. Petersburg pride flag raising, saying, "Don't care that the event is supposed to be nonpartisan." Representative Michelle Rayner, I think she was the one that got kicked off the Florida House floor recently, is what it is, said, quote, "Pride was not only about rainbows and parades, and we love those things, but pride is always about a protest. It is always about resistance, and in this moment, we must resist." What a fucking ass clown, dude, for real. Let's see, then we got this one. Tensions running high outside Cullen County Courthouse right now. Currently happening outside Karmelo Anthony murder trial. This is from an hour ago. We got a bunch of angry blacks out there. They're Karmelo supporters and stuff, bitching and moaning. So, just a bunch of fucking clown asses, dude, for real. It's a big old boy with his camera right there. Yeah, these people are all just idiots, dude. It would be interesting to see exactly how many of these morons are out there for Karmelo. To if they actually went to the GoFundMe / GiveSendGo and put money into his account, there's what it is, in the past year. So yeah, speaking of the that same black supremacist dude from yesterday, you got him babbling on, "Where I come from, we kill crackers. And this is precisely why 13% of the population makes up 50% of the violent crime in America." Yep. Exactly, bro. Exactly. Oh, I actually do want to talk about this one too, for a minute, because it just truly sickens me. So, for those that don't know, Jesse Ridgway, the guy that called himself McJuggernuggets here on YouTube, I have always hated this man. Don't ask me why. I don't know if it was just the content that he came out with, and it just seemed like he was fleecing kids for money and stuff like that and whatnot, or what it was. But something always just got on my nerves and just rubbed him the wrong way is what it was there. But I now have a legitimate reason to hate this man. He literally aborted his unborn child. He and his wife did. YouTuber and wife who aborted their baby because the child had Down syndrome say they've seen, quote, the darkest side of humanity because of how people are reacting. Quote, we've seen the dark side of humanity through this process. The dark side of humanity is killing an unborn baby because the baby has Down syndrome. Yeah, what a fucking... I would like to beat this dude's ass so fucking hard as what it is right now, dude, honestly. Like, if I'm going to throw that challenge out right now. This challenge goes out to Jesse Ridgeway. Let's fight, bro. Celebrity boxing match of some kind. Put the gloves on, jump in the ring. Accept the challenge or don't. It doesn't matter. But you were a disgusting, demonically evil piece of shit, bro. Because you killed your unborn child because the doctors claim the kid was going to have Down syndrome. They don't know that 100%, bro. They can make those claims all the time. It doesn't mean it's going to be the case. But you and your wife chose to kill this kid in her womb because it was going to be inconvenient for you. Fuck you, man. You were just the worst side of humanity ever, my guy. And it makes sense. It makes sense why you want to sit there and play like you're the fucking victim when you are the guy who literally helped murder a child, bro. Like, just a complete piece of garbage, dude. And I would say, truthfully, his wife is just as bad as he is. Because she was willing to go along with it, man. And the reason I bring all this up, I do want to point this out, too, for that matter. My mother, many, many, many decades ago now, about 4, when she was pregnant with me, doctors told her to abort, man. They said it was a high-risk pregnancy, and they claimed then, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that they claimed I was going to have some kind of fucked-up disease or whatever it was. I don't think it was Down syndrome per se, but it was something else. She's like, nope, I'm going to have the kid. And guess what? I came out fine for the most part. So, yeah. Doctors don't know shit, bro. In fact, most of them are actually paid by the fucking abortion industry at this point in time in history to push abortions. So for you to sit there and kill your kid because they may or may not have had Down syndrome because it was going to be inconvenient for you as a parent, God, you're sick, man. Just pure fucking evil, bro. Just pure fucking evil. Anyway, going down New York Post again, it came out that the witnesses were claiming that he was asked to leave 15 times before he actually killed Austin Metcalf. Then we got here 4 hours ago, breaking news: man at Karmelo Anthony's murder trial saying the only good cracker is a dead cracker, and he'll push a cracker into the grave is Jacob Blake, Sr. of Kenosha, Wisconsin. I thought this dude looked familiar. Yeah, he was at the Kenosha riots back in 20. When was Rittenhouse of self-defense? It was 2020, right? August 2020, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. This was the guy that was at the Jacob Blake riots there, where Kyle Rittenhouse of self-defense as it was. Yeah, let's see. So, Jacob Blake. Oh, wait. This isn't. I don't think about it. Is this the father of the guy who tried to stab that woman and then got shot by the cops? Because wasn't Jacob Blake the guy who they were doing that whole thing over? I gotta look that one up now. Let me go look that up real quick. Okay, so we got shooting of Jacob S. Blake. It might just be a different. I don't know. I swear. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay. Because this is the guy right here who was shot by the cops in 2020 because he was trying to stab a girl. So this dude may or may not be his father. But I swear I've seen that dude's face before. So it's hard to tell. But anyway, going back to what I was saying here. This Jacob Blake Sr. of Kenosha, Wisconsin, has a documented history of anti-white, anti-Semitic statements on social media. Okay, yeah, I was right. Okay, so he is the father of that guy then. Yep, the son Jacob Blake Jr. was shot by police when they were trying to arrest him. Happened in 2020. Police were called to domestic disturbance call at the house of LaQuisha Booker, who was trying to kill, by the way, who was Blake Jr.'s mother of Blake Jr.'s children. Booker told dispatchers that Blake was not allowed on the property, had taken her car keys and refused to return them. Officers arrived aware the active felony arrest warrant for Blake issued in July 2020 on charges of third-degree sexual assault, trespassing, disorderly conduct stemming from a prior domestic abuse attack involving the same woman. Body cam footage and witness videos show officers being attacked by Blake. Officers ordering Blake to stop as he fought them. He ignored commands, moved to the SUV where he was trying to grab a knife. Police reportedly yelled, "Drop the knife," which, by the way, they did find a knife in the it was driver's side area that was similar to what I have right here in my hand. It was one of these little like dagger kind of knives is what it is there. So he was definitely trying to go for a weapon is what it was when they shot him back there is what it is. And that's why I remember that old man is because he was Jacob's daddy is what it is. He went on mainstream media to talk about that stuff. So, yeah, it makes sense that would be the same piece of fucking garbage then. Anyway, let's see going on there. Yeah, so Blake Jr. refused, turned towards the officer with a knife in hand. Officer shot him, survived, but was paralyzed from the waist down. Knife was recovered from the driver's side floorboard of the vehicle, and Blake admitted to possessing it. It was, like I said, it was similar to what I just had in my hand there, is what it was. No charges were filed against the officer who, at a state level, Biden's DOJ also declined to file charges. Blake later pled guilty to disorderly conduct and domestic abuse. The felony sexual assault charge was dropped as part of the deal. He received 2 years probation. The shooting triggered multiple nights of violent riots in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where rioters set fires, looted businesses, and attacked police and civilians. At least 2 people were killed before the National Guard stepped in. I like how this person doesn't bother pointing out the fact that you had the reason that actually was stopped was because of Kyle Rittenhouse clapping 3 motherfuckers. That night is what it was. Or I guess they like clapped 2. And then it was the next night was when the National Guard finally was, put in place. There what it was. Anyway, says Jacob Blake Sr. has since shown up at rallies and press conferences talking about systematic racism, police misconduct. In 2020 interviews, he focused on healing and justice for his son while criticizing the lack of charges. However, Facebook posts attributed to his account show repeated slurs against white people, calling them crackers and pink toes? The fuck? Never heard that fucking racial slur, dude. And claims about Jewish control of media and finance. Well, that's actually probably true, honestly. Let's see. Blake Sr. also posted support for the Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan. Of course he fucking did, because black supremacists and Islamic terrorists love to stick together, is what it is. Writing phrases such as "I'm with Farrakhan," and then I'm not even going to read that one. Y'all can read it yourself there and highlight the thing. It says one post stated, "One day pink toes will burn." I'm not even sure what that lasts for. Letters are supposed to be words for. Maybe forever? I don't know. Basically talking about killing white people. Again, how the fuck was this dude not having his account suspended for that kind of shit, dude? Because you're openly racially calling for the murder of another race is what it is, dude. So, Anyway, continuing on, I said he is the same man causing commotion and threatening white people outside the Karmelo Anthony murder trial. Of fucking course he is, dude. Like, piece of shit father, like piece of shit son. It makes sense why his son was a fucking career criminal, dude. Because daddy probably is too, is my guess, honestly. So, any surprise? The piece shit supremacist of the whole criminal created the riots in 2020. Oh, for those that haven't heard, Kyle Rittenhouse apparently got bit by a brown recluse recently and survived. I'll tell you what, if I didn't know any better, I think God had it out for that guy for sure, man. Because it's like, at 17 years old, you put him in a situation where he has to defend himself by killing 2 people in self-defense and then wounding a third. And then you almost kill him 5 years later, 6 years later from a brown recluse spider bite. It's like, Jesus, bro. Anyway, what was I saying then? What is this now? Another unidentified teammate testifying for context. Teen is black. Said Austin's shove was so light that Karmelo did not touch him, and they were sitting next to each other. Okay, so you're saying the guy who was testifying was sitting next to Karmelo, and then Austin was just like, and then Karmelo was like this, and the guy was like that, and they didn't even touch each other. Yeah, so yeah, 100%. This dude just needs to fucking fry is what it is then. So, anyway. That being said, that's where we're going to be at for the day. I'm pretty tired. It's almost 6:45, and I got some other stuff I got to do. And I do want to post a few of these topics at hand right now to some Discords to discuss with some other people what it is there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I will see you guys. Actually, before we go, we got Benny Johnson talking about some of this stuff here about an hour ago. So we'll finish off with that, and then we'll go for the day is what it is. So yeah, we got fucking asshole with his damn system out. I think it's one of these fucking black dudes that lives down the complex at the end there by the mailboxes and stuff. Anyway, I got Benny Johnson an hour ago saying, damning new testimony in Karmelo Anthony murder trial could seal his fate. Teammate was sitting right next to the 2 teens and witnessed the stabbing. Testified that, quote, students repeatedly asked Karmelo to leave the tent. Karmelo refused, told Austin Metcalf, touch me and find out. The physical contact was, quote, minor pushing at most. Anthony sat with his hand inside his backpack the whole time. See, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this right here, that shit is premeditated murder, bro. Like, he knew exactly what the fuck he was going to do, and he was going to establish the Metcalf to death that day. So the fact they're even claiming it's not premeditated murder is absolute bullshit then. This is the prosecutor asked who was provoking the confrontation. The witness answered plainly Karmelo Anthony was. He testified he did not believe it was self-defense. This is sworn testimony from one of Anthony's own peers who was right there. Let the facts speak. We need justice for Austin Metcalf. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And it's that simple, honestly. So, justice for Austin Metcalf. Karmelo Anthony not getting the death penalty would be a travesty in this country. He should be getting an immediate execution, honestly, at this point in history. Because, like I said, the cops shouldn't have let him fucking leave that field alive that day over a year ago. He should have been killed that fucking day, honestly. As soon as he tried to run for it, they should have smoked his ass right then and there. And in a just society where true justice exists, that's what would have happened. Unfortunately, we don't live in a just society with true justice yet. But hopefully someday. Hopefully someday soon. Anyway, that's about it for today. I will be back probably sometime tomorrow with another Spicy Boy Saturday episode. We will go over the big old DC-53 knife in more context. There's another blade I want to talk about too on that one. It might just be a DC-53 day, honestly, at that point, because I got a couple other knives in the packages this week. Got in that Full Sail one, which I might actually change that out with one of the other ones that I've been having as an EDC knife, because that one actually does have a glass breaker for windows on the back of it, unlike most. And it seems like a pretty sharp glass breaker too, so that might actually take over the second slot where the mossy oak is currently sitting right now. So I might change out the black mossy oak for the I think it's like a kind of see-through handle kind of deal. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, here it is. I'll just show what this looks like right now before we leave. Which comes with a couple things. Comes with a couple desiccant packets. Nice little cleaning cloth and stuff like that. And then the knife itself has that kind of see-through handle material, but it also has a little glass breaker there on the back of it. It's a nice looking knife too. It's pretty long. And it's more of a Tonto blade, so I might just change that out in the next couple days, because then if that be the case, I'd be carrying, instead of just carrying two D2 knives, I'd be carrying a D2 and then a DC-53 is what it is. And then we would also have potentially like a small fixed blade in the backpack or something like that it would be going forward. But yeah, it would be, you know, basically going back to the 2 is 1, 1 is none. Whereas I don't know if 3 would be 2 or not on that one, but yeah, having a fixed blade and having a couple folders would be a good idea to have, honestly, at this point in history. So anyway, but that's about it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'll be back, like I said, most likely tomorrow afternoon at some point for Slicey Boy Saturday. I'm not exactly sure when yet. But I'll set up the stream here in a few minutes so it is then and just put like a random time. So it might be at like 1 or 2 tomorrow afternoon. It might not be till like 4 or 5 tomorrow afternoon. Honestly, it just depends. So, but most likely it'll happen tomorrow then. And then we'll do other stuff after the fact so what it is then. So anyway, till later. I will see you guys then. Have a good one. Peace out. Stay safe. Stay vigilant, always be carrying, always be situationally aware, always call out black supremacists when you can on their bullshit, always side-eye Islam because they are a fucking threat to this country and most likely will commit some kind of terrorist attack this July for the 250th anniversary of America, so be ready and be vigilant for that one. And basically, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, stay away from large gatherings this 4th of July, dude, especially fireworks shows and stuff like that, because if they're going to do stuff, I think that's where they're going to do them at, honestly. So, anyway, I hope I'm wrong, but I would not be surprised by it at all, honestly, at this point in history. So, which means that we'd have another generation finally having their 9/11 kind of attack, unfortunately. But if our government actually did their fucking job right now, instead of, jerking off Israel every 5 minutes, they would actually deal with the Islamic terror threat in America right now, is what it is. But they don't want to do that because it's inconvenient for them, is what it is there. And in some cases, depending on where they're at, if they're Democrats or rhinos or something like that, they're protecting these people, is what it is then. So they can fuck off our soil forever, is what it is then. So, anyway. But yeah, till later. I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good rest of your Friday, and be back tomorrow for Slicey Boy Saturday. Peace out, y'all. Later.